Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Funding Opportunities for Your Community in 2022, an overview of what's ahead, hosted by the Bureau of Justice Assistance. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce one of today's presenters, Ruby Kazelbash, the Associate Deputy Director within the Bureau of Justice Assistance. Ruby.
Thank you so much, Daryl, and welcome everyone. We'll go over, I also would like to introduce my co-presenter, David Lewis, who you can see, and then I will kick things off. So I'd love to greet everyone and welcome you to today's webinar on behalf of BJA's Acting Director, Kristen Mahoney. Really want to thank you for taking your time out to learn about BJA's funding opportunities. And the overarching objective of the webinar is to do just that. It's to make you aware of funding opportunities that we anticipate will become available during the coming weeks and months. Given time constraints, we won't be able to go in depth on each and every program, but we will provide you with enough information so that you can identify and flag certain funding opportunities that may be of interest to you and your community. And you can visit our website for detailed information about all of the programs. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to just continue to recognize the challenging times that we find ourselves in as members of the criminal justice and public safety community. We find ourselves facing an ongoing worldwide pandemic, devastating and also ongoing opioid crisis, and other problem drugs that continue to impact the nation, growing mental health challenges, and diminished public confidence in law enforcement. And the professions and disciplines that are represented on, of those of you on today's call really represent the front lines that are dealing with these unprecedented and pretty highly complex challenges. A lot of the funding opportunities that you're going to hear about today are directly responsive to these challenges and can help augment your local efforts and revenue sources. So to everyone on this call, especially to those of you on the front line, we thank you for all that you do for our communities and to keep us safe. And now we are going to talk about how we can help bring some federal resources to your community to help address those challenges. So on the next slide, we want to just let you know a little bit about who we are. The Bureau of Justice Assistance is located within the Office of Justice Programs, or OJP. And OJP provides a wide range of services to the criminal justice community in the form of grants and training and technical assistance and research. So although our focus today is on BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance funding opportunities, there are other OJP offices shown on this slide that offer additional grants and programs to support our shared public safety missions. The COPS office and the Office on Violence Against Women are two other DOJ components that provide important resources for the criminal justice community. And at OJP, we strive to prevent and to reduce crime, and we do that through a comprehensive approach. We work to engage and empower those in at-risk environments, to advance systemic improvements in the justice system, and to deliver effective and outcome-driven capabilities and programs. On the next slide, I just want to share with you that BJA is really proud to support our nation's state, local, and tribal criminal justice agencies with the express purpose of reducing crime and strengthening communities. One of the most important ways that we do this is by providing grants to agencies and communities in order to support those local efforts. And we do our best to design programs that are responsive to today's real-world challenges and to provide maximum flexibility for local implementation. BJA is committed to streamlining our application process where we can and minimizing the administrative burden of managing our grants. And we've made a lot of progress in doing that in these years. I don't think it's ever been easier to apply for and manage BJA grants. In other words, we ask you not to be intimidated by the process or think that you need to be an experienced grant manager to successfully apply for BJA funding. If you have the desire to apply, we have the support to help you succeed. But it's really important, I've got to say, not to procrastinate until once you see that a solicitation is open that you or your community or agency is interested in. Waiting until the last week to apply might just not leave you with enough time to gather all the necessary information needed for the application. So we really want you to succeed. In order to do that, we encourage you to start early. On the next slide, there's two types of grants, discretionary and formula. For discretionary grants, applicants apply directly to OJP, to the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and you do that through grants.gov. The discretionary grants are typically competitive. They're awards that are based on predetermined review processes that are published in the solicitation, and they're also dependent on the availability of funds. For most programs, we receive more applications than we actually have funding for. So we try to fund the strongest proposals based on objective review criteria. Formula grants are typically awarded on a non-competitive basis, which usually means that every eligible applicant receives some funding. The amount of funding for a specific agency or jurisdiction can vary based on a variety of factors, which often include population and crime rates. And most formula grant programs are administered at the state level by state administering agencies, or SAAs. If you don't have an active relationship with your SAA, you can start one. And if you don't know who that individual or agency is within your state, you can find a complete contact list on BJA's website. So now let's talk about FY22 funding opportunities. On the next slide, you can see that we've done our best to group these by topic area. And I'm going to start off and talk about the solicitations and programs that support behavioral health and community-based approaches to criminal justice interventions. After I go through these, I'm going to pass the baton to David Lewis, who's going to go over BJA's programs that support law enforcement and courts, and then you'll still see me again to round things out on our programs that support corrections as well as our formula programs. So the first program to tell you about is our Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Program, or COSAP. So very few communities have been spared by the effects of the opioid epidemic and other substance use disorders. Substance use and mental health are two of the most often cited challenges for jurisdictions, whether large or small, urban or rural. And COSAP supports efforts to reduce overdose deaths, promote public safety, and support access to treatment and recovery services. There are 9 purpose areas that can accommodate proposals at various entry points across the criminal justice spectrum to include alternatives to incarceration, law enforcement-led diversion, recovery and support services, and medication-assisted treatment, to name a few. On the next slide, COSAP allows you really to craft a proposal that is right for your community and responsive to your community's needs. The average award amount for site-based awards is $3 million under COSAP, and for local site-based awards is $1 million. On the next slide, we talk about the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program. This program seeks to increase public safety by facilitating collaboration among criminal justice, mental health, and substance use treatment disorder treatment entities. And the goal here is increasing access to mental health and other treatment services for individuals with mental illnesses or co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders. Example projects include, but aren't limited to, mental health courts and other court-based programs, and programs that support cooperative efforts between public health officials and service providers that connect people with treatment and other social services. Average awards for this program are in the $550,000 range. And a note here that we also plan to compete the training and technical assistance component of this solicitation this year as well. On the next slide, is the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. This program has been funded since 2006. Prescription Drug Monitoring, or PDMP, this program enhances the capacity of regulatory and law enforcement agencies as well as public health agencies, depending on where the PDMP resides or sits within that state, to collect and analyze controlled substance prescription data and other scheduled chemical products through centralized databases administered by one agency designated in that state. The goal of the solicitation will be to invest in partnership with state PDMPs in strategies to strengthen the national or nation's PDMP system and support enhancements to state PDMPs that improve clinical decision-making and prevent the abuse and diversion of controlled substances such as opioids and other prescription drugs. Under the program, grants can be used to fund staff of PDMPs, including data analysts and epidemiologists, support program evaluation, and fund contracts with vendors that might operate the state PDMP, and connect with other systems within the state and with other state programs. We anticipate making around 14 awards of up to $2 million each. The Byrne Criminal Justice Innovation Program is based on the principle that sustainable reductions in serious and violent crime require collaboration amongst a lot of partners within the criminal justice system with service providers and the communities that they serve. And these partnerships extend to community development corporations and private businesses involved in local revitalization efforts. And funding under this program supports data-driven, community-oriented strategies to reduce crime in specific neighborhoods that have concentrations of serious and violent crime. Average award amounts under this program are $900,000. BJA intends to make up to 14 awards at that amount, and also noting here that the training and technical assistance for this program will also be completed this year. BJA's STOP program is a school violence interruption program and provides funding to support threat assessments, mental health training, anti-bullying training, and tech solutions such as anonymous reporting systems for schools. The ultimate goal of the program is to provide students and teachers with resources to recognize and to prevent school violence. The COPS office, to note, also administers a companion program that's really focused on doors, locks, cameras, and other target hardening measures. We encourage people, if you're interested in this program, to also visit the COPS office website for more information on their companion program. Every community could potentially benefit from this program. The Kevin and Avante program is aimed at reducing injury and death of missing individuals with dementia and developmental disabilities. The program supports local jurisdictions' efforts to reduce the number of deaths and injuries of people with forms of dementia such as Alzheimer's disease or developmental disabilities such as autism, who due to their condition wander from safe environments, and to design, establish, or operate a holistic, locally based, and proactive program to locate those individuals or prevent their wandering from safe environments. This program provides funding to law enforcement and other public safety agencies to implement locative technologies to track missing people, and to such agencies and partnering nonprofit organizations to develop or operate programs to prevent wandering and increase individual safety, as well as facilitate rescues. Next is BJA's Connect and Protect program, Law Enforcement Behavioral Health Response Program. And this program supports cross-system collaboration to improve public safety and health responses to and outcomes for people with mental health disorders or co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders that come into contact with the justice system. It really focuses on building collaborative teams between law enforcement and their behavioral health counterparts within a community. We anticipate making up to 27 awards at the average amount of $550,000 per award. Next is the Coordinated Tribal Assistance solicitation. And this is a solicitation that is actually a Department of Justice-wide solicitation that BJA contributes to. It seeks to improve public safety and victim services in tribal communities, and it provides federally recognized tribes and tribal consortia with the opportunity to apply for funding to aid in a comprehensive and coordinated approach to public safety and victimization. In CTAS, we refer to categories as purpose areas, and applicants can apply for funding under the purpose area or areas that best address their tribe's concerns related to public safety, criminal and juvenile justice, and responses to domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, and other crimes. So under CTAS, BJA oversees purpose areas 2, 3, and 4. Purpose area 2 supports comprehensive tribal justice system strategic planning. Purpose Area 3 supports any supports that are needed within an adult tribal justice system, from prevention to behavioral health, to treatment, tribal courts, corrections, reentry, and strategies that address violent crimes. And Purpose Area 4 is about infrastructure. So we can support tribal justice system infrastructure investments through renovation and also permanent modular buildings. You'll see here on this slide a specific breakdown for the number of awards and amounts in relation to the different purpose areas. Next is Justice Counts implementation. The goal of this program is to spur adoption of Justice Counts metrics to enable collection and meaningful aggregation of data and support data-driven decision-making about criminal justice policy and budgets at both the state and national levels. We plan to make up to 20 awards of up to $350,000 each. We also plan to compete training and technical assistance to support this program with one award at approximately $3 million. On the next slide, and this is the last slide that I'll go over with you before I pass the presentation to my colleague, David Lewis. Under the Justice Reinvestment Initiative, state-level program assessment and coordination, we'll be selecting a provider to provide overall initiative coordination on justice reinvestment and to work in collaboration with the state-level training and technical assistance providers to conduct an initiative-wide evaluation. We anticipate making one award of up to $750,000. And on the next slide, we will start with our programs that support law enforcement, and I will pass the baton to David Lewis for this one.
Thank you, Ruby. As Ruby said, this is David Lewis. I'm a Senior Policy Advisor at the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and I've been here for a number of years and worked on programs both here at BJA and from the field. Bodyworn cameras are increasingly seen as a must-have for many law enforcement agencies and communities. BJA funds the purchase of body-worn cameras that are implemented as part of the comprehensive body-worn camera program. For those of you who have waded into these waters, you know how many second and third order considerations there are when it comes to body-worn cameras, including deployment policies, digital storage costs, strategies, privacy concerns, and others. Our body-worn camera program provides much more than just funding to purchase cameras. BJA has a body-worn camera toolkit and a clearinghouse website for agencies interested in planning and implementing a body-worn camera program. Whether you're starting from scratch or want to enhance an existing program, our body-worn camera program clearinghouse has a wealth of resources for you. Check out our website for more information. Award amounts for this program range from $10,000 to $2 million, depending on the agency side. The number of awards made will vary on the number of applications received. The Preventing Violence Against Law Enforcement Officers and Ensuring Officer Resilience and Survivability is part of BJA's VALOR program, which is specifically designed to assist agencies in improving the immediate and long-term safety, wellness, and resilience for their officers. The program provides no-cost training, resources, and partnerships for law enforcement officers and departments. I urge you to visit the BJA VALOR page for additional information. This is a training and technical assistance program, and BJA estimates making 4 TPA awards plus 4 smaller site-based awards. The average amount for the TPA awards is $3 million. The amount for the site-based awards is still to be determined. The Collaborative Crisis Response Training Program. This is an educational program focusing on crisis response for law enforcement and correctional officers to provide the knowledge and skills to interact with those who have behavior, health, or disabilities. This program is specifically looking for applications from state, local, and tribal law enforcement and correctional agencies for the listed elements here. BJA estimates making up to 20 awards with an average amount of $375,000. The Smart Policing Initiative provides funding to support our test promising initiatives and practices aimed at a community pressing crime problems. The idea behind the Smart Policing Initiative is to promote creativity to enhance best practices and also discover the next practices that will help policing and evolve and become more effective. So if there's something that you're currently doing or wanting to do that could hold promise for the rest of us, you should apply. Funds can be used for new personnel, overtime, software, hardware, and other allowable items to support the project. Congress has asked that DOJ prioritize applications for development of real-time crime centers in jurisdictions with high violent and gun crimes. BJA estimates making up to 10 awards with an average award amount of $500,000. The Crime Gun Intelligence Centers program is an important tool for communities experiencing high gun-related violent crimes. The purpose is to encourage local jurisdictions, to include tribal, to work with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive, or ATF partners, to identify firearms that are used unlawfully and their sources, with the ultimate goal of prosecuting perpetrators engaged in violent crime. CJIC, as it's called, utilizes the National Integrated Ballistics Imaging Network, or NIBIN, and utilizes intelligence, technology, and community engagement as part of their approach to reducing gun violence. BJA estimates making up to 7 awards with an average award amount of up to $700,000. The Internet of Things program is another BJA technical assistance program to assist law enforcement, prosecutors, judges, corrections, and public safety. This program's applicants will be limited to entities that do provide TTA and can develop and present training courses to public safety nationwide, and especially be able to reach out underserved areas. The selected TTA provider will work in conjunction with BJA to identify these types of crimes and document promising practices approaches in addressing these issues. BJA estimates making up to 4 awards with an average award amount of $450,000. The Intellectual Property Program, or IPEP, program is designed to protect public health, safety, and our nation's economy from counterfeit and pirated goods. Funding under this program can be used to cover expenses to establish task forces, to conduct investigations, forensic analysis, acquiring equipment to conduct investigations, and prosecution. The aim is to prevent, deter, and identify criminal violations of intellectual property laws on a state and local level. As a condition of these awards, state and local task forces are required to work in conjunction with the federal agencies in their areas who are also working intellectual property cases. This program also provides some training and technical assistance to state, local, tribal, and territorial agencies conducting intellectual property investigations. BJ estimates making up to 6 awards with an average award amount expected to be up to $250,000. Now, I want to provide some information over the next several slides on programs administered under BJA's Forensic Science portfolio. Beginning last year under fiscal year 2020, BJA expanded its forensics portfolio from solely the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative to a portfolio that now includes several additional programs transitioned from the Office of Justice Program's National Institute of Justice. The Sexual Assault Kit Initiative, or SAKI, is critical to enhancing the criminal justice response to sexual assault and ensuring justice for victims. Funding not only helps link victims to advocates and needed services, but also helps jurisdictions implement best practices and comprehensive reform to help bring perpetrators to justice and increase safety in communities by preventing future sexual assaults. SAKI provides funding to support multidisciplinary community response teams to inventory, track, and expeditiously test previous unsubmitted sexual assault kits, collect and test lawfully owned DNA from offenders and arrestees, produce necessary protocols and policies to improve collaboration among laboratories, police, prosecutors, and victims service providers, provide resources to address the sexual assault investigations and prosecute the result from evidence, and CODIS kits produced by tested sexual assault kits, and optimize victim notification protocols and services. BJA estimates making 40 awards with an average award of up to $1.2 million. The Paul Cloverdale Forensic Science Improvement Grants Program includes both individual, competitive, and formula-based programs. This information referred here pertains to the competitive-based program. The Cloverdale competition program specifically focuses on the quality and timeliness of forensic science and medical examiner coroner services and seeks to improve these services, including those services provided by laboratories operated by states and units of local government. BJA estimates making 10 awards with an estimated average amount of up to $400,000. The post-conviction testing DNA program It assists in defraying the costs associated with post-conviction DNA testing in cases of violent federal offenders, as defined by state law, in which actual innocence might be demonstrated. Funding may be used to identify and review such post-conviction cases and to locate and analyze associated biological evidence. BJA estimates making 12 awards with an estimated average amount of up to $500,000. Agencies of all sizes have unsolved cases that have been labeled as cold cases. Under BJA's Prosecuting Cold Cases program, successful applicants will receive support for the prosecution of violent crimes and cold cases where DNA from a suspect has been identified, and the suspect may be known or unknown, provided that DNA from a suspect has been identified. Funding will support investigative activities in crime and forensic analysis that could lead to the prosecution. Funds under this program can be used to prosecute violent crime cold cases and decrease the number of violent crime cold cases awaiting prosecution. BJA estimates making 10 awards with an estimated average amount of up to $450,000. Strengthening the medical examiner coroner system program. Investigation of violent deaths performed by medical examiner coroners offices are vital to criminal justice. However, there are systematic issues in death investigation, data qualities, and infrastructure, inadequate facilities, and inconsistent expertise levels. In addition, the medical examiner and coroners community lacks adequate personnel and resources to address medical legal death investigation needs. This Strengthening the Medical Examiner Coroner System program is designed to address some of these deficiencies by providing funding for forensic pathology fellowships and projects that assist the medical examiner coroner offices to seek accreditation and personal certification. This program not only helps address the extreme shortage of board-certified forensic pathologists in the United States, but also provides medical examiner coroner offices with the resources to become accredited and support the enhancement of medical legal death investigations nationwide. BJA estimates making 17 awards with an estimated average amount of up to $165,000. The Forensic Training and Technical Assistance Program is another BJA-managed TTA program and will be the first time that the Office of Justice Program has provided this type of support to states and site-based awardees. The Forensic Training and Technical Assistance Program is specifically designed to support and enhance BJA forensic grantees in meeting their program outcomes through a range of TTA services. This program will be limited to TTA provider applicants, and BJA estimates only making one award with an estimated average amount of up to $5 million. This next section of today's presentation will provide the current overview of BJA's programs that are designed to support courts, prosecution, and defense. Next slide, please. The Emmett Till Cold Case Investigations Program is named in honor of Emmett Till, who was brutally murdered in 1955. This program is designed to support state, local, and tribal law enforcement and prosecution with their investigations and prosecutions of racially motivated cold case murders. This program also includes support for victims' families and stakeholders impacted by these cases. One note is the funds under this program are limited to cases where deaths occurred prior to 1980. BJA estimates up to 6 awards with an estimated average amount of up to $2.5 million. These next two slides deal with the Innovative Prosecution Solution for Combating Violent Crime, or SMART Prosecution. Prosecutors play a vital role and are often underfunded and working with outdated technology and resources. BJA's Innovative Prosecution Solution for Combating Violent Crime program is designed to support state, local, and tribal prosecutor offices in reducing caseloads, improving processes, and improving technology to better manage and track cases. In addition, these prosecutors are overwhelmed with the amount of evidence attached to modern-day cases and the intricacies of the investigation and prosecution of crime related to cyber, human trafficking, gun, and other drug crimes. This program, like many of the BJA's offerings, provides a high degree of flexibility to craft a proposal to meet specific state, local, and tribal challenges. BJA estimates up to 6 awards, which are estimated to average in the amount up to $350,000. With the recent number of hate crimes being investigated and prosecuted by state, local, and tribal agencies, the BJA Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Program is designed to assist law enforcement and prosecutors with their outreach with the goal to educate community members, victims, agency partners, and especially staff about hate crimes and how they can be addressed. This program provides funds to support expenses associated with investigation and prosecution of these types of crimes. BJA estimates up to 15 awards with an estimated average amount up to $300,000. The John R. Justice Grant Program, also referred as the J.R. Justice Student Loan Repayment Program, is designed to offer an incentive for all state and territories to be able to attract, recruit, and retain talented and eligible local, state, and federal public defenders. The goal of this program is to assist state and local prosecutors in setting up and maintaining a student loan repayment assistance program for attorneys with the most state loan financial burden, who agree to commit to the extended employment in public interest law and those roles for a minimum of 36 months. BJA estimates up to 56 awards with an estimated average amount up to $35,147. BJA plans to release this by January 28th and close by March 22nd. The Public Safety Partnership National Training and Technical Assistance Program enables DOJ to provide jurisdictions of different sizes and diversity that needs with data-driven, evidence-based strategies tailored to their unique local needs to build their capabilities and to address violent crime challenges. This model includes a strong partnership with selected jurisdictions, their state and local partners, as well as partnership with federal agencies. The PSP program, as it's called, selected sites receive expedited, coordinated training and technical assistance and an array of resources from DOJ to enhance local public safety strategies. The PSP program has engaged with more than 40 sites since the program's inception. BJA will announce when applications will be accepted for new PSP locations. This BJA program provides support to local, state, and federally recognized Indian tribal governments to establish and enhance community-oriented court models with a focus on communities with significant crime issues. The ultimate goal of the Community Courts Program is the application of community court principles to a wider community, and for these principles to be successfully replicated as a community court model in other jurisdictions. BJA estimates up to 10 awards and an estimated average amount of up to $500,000. The Adult Drug Court Discretionary Grant Program supports efforts by state, local, and tribal courts to address the needs of individuals in the criminal justice system with substance abuse issues, including targeting the needs of veterans. The goal of the program is to equip courts and other criminal jurisdictions with treatment and service providers with tools to effectively integrate evidence-based substance abuse treatment, random mandatory drug testing, equitable sanctions and incentives, and transitional services in judicially supervised court settings with jurisdictions over high risk, high need, and individuals that will reduce recidivism and substance abuse and prevent overdoses and death. This includes a focus on persons with co-occurring disorders, many of whom are served in these programs. BJA estimates up to 45 awards under 3 categories. These categories will be clearly articulated in the posted solicitation for this program, and I would urge those interested to visit the Adult Court Program page on the BJA website. The Veterans Treatment Court Discretionary Grant Program supports efforts by state, local, and tribal courts to address the needs of individuals in the criminal justice system with substance abuse, and especially those needs of our veterans. The goal of this program is to equip courts and other jurisdictions and treatment service providers with tools to effectively integrate evidence-based substance abuse treatment, random mandatory drug testing, equitable sanctions and incentives, and traditional services in judicially supervised court settings. Also to jurisdictions that have high risk, high need of individuals, and reduce recidivism and substance abuse and prevent overdoses and death. This includes a focus on persons with co-occurring disorders, many that are covered under these programs. BJA estimates up to 22 awards under 3 categories. These categories will be clearly articulated in the posted solicitation for this program, and I would urge those interested to visit the Veterans Treatment Court Program page on the BJA website. Upholding the rule of law and preventing wrongful convictions program and the capital case litigation program. This program provides funding to support case reviews and post-conviction claims of innocent with a focus on cases at greatest risk for error. This is an important program which helps to identify any systematic issues that may lead to wrongful convictions and most of all ensure that innocent persons are exonerated. I will now turn things over to my colleague. In this particular program, BJ estimates 12 awards, and the amount is to be determined. Turn this back over to you, Ruby. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. And hi again, everyone. I realized that I failed to fully introduce myself when I joined you the first time around. Right now, I have the honor and privilege of supporting BJA's policy office as the acting deputy director. But normally I'm BJA's associate deputy director for our corrections, reentry, and justice reform team. So I am especially happy to tell you we are almost to the back end of the presentation. Thank you for all of your interest so far. But I'm happy to be able to talk about the BJA's programs that support corrections next, and then we'll round out with BJA's formula programs. So the next program that we're going to hear about is the Combating Contraband Cell Phone Use in Prisons. And the purpose of this program is to assist state and local governments, including federally recognized Indian tribes that have detention capacity, to operationalize effective and secure managed access systems in order to prevent, to detect, to seize, to protect against, and stop the presence and use of contraband cell phones by detainees and inmates in correctional facilities. Applicants under this program may propose to enhance or implement new physical, technical, or tactical systems such as managed access systems for these purposes. In addition, applicants are really encouraged to identify strategies to educate relevant staff and other key stakeholders within the facility environment about steps they can take to address contraband cell phones, as well as to define a process to gather, use, and share intelligence acquired after the seizing of contraband cell phones. On the next slide is the Prison Rape Elimination Act program. And the goal of the PREA site-based program is to assist confinement facilities to include prisons, jails, juvenile facilities, community confinement facilities, and police lockups, and the agencies that oversee them in preventing, identifying, and responding to sexual victimization in these facilities, and to support compliance with the national PREA standards. The overall objectives of the program are to reduce sexual abuse in confinement, to increase staff capacity for preventing sexual abuse in confinement, to promote integration of the PREA standards into the day-to-day operations and cultures of confinement facilities, and to identify and document innovative and promising practices in order to inform similar efforts across the nation. We're looking with this program to create cultures of zero tolerance of sexual victimization within confinement facilities. We estimate awards will be up to $250,000, and you can see the different categories of awards depending on the unit of government, whether state, local, or tribal. On the next slide, I'll talk about BJAs. The next few slides, we'll talk about BJA's second chance recidivism reduction and reentry programs. This one is our community-based reentry program. And this program provides opportunities for nonprofit service providers and tribes to implement or expand on reentry programs that demonstrate strong partnerships with corrections, including parole, probation, and other reentry services providers, in order to provide those critical transitional services as people return from incarceration back home to their communities. These partnerships should develop comprehensive case management plans that directly address an individual's criminogenic risks and needs as determined by validated risk assessments and include delivery and or facilitation of services that are specific to those needs. Grants made under this program can be used for mentoring during incarceration through the transition back to the community and post-release, for the important transitional services to assist in the reintegration back into the communities for people that are returning home, and training on reentry issues as well as on victims issues. This solicitation is specific for nonprofit organizations to apply for funding directly, while other reentry solicitations may be directed towards states, localities, and tribes. As the eligible applicants, nonprofits could partner with them as a sub-grantee under these other solicitations. For example, partnering with states or locals as a sub-grantee in order to be the community reentry service provider. We anticipate making up to 17 awards and the average range of up to $750,000 per award. On the next slide, please. The Improving Reentry Education and Employment Outcomes Program is really looking to enhance a correction system's ability to expand its educational opportunities and employment programs, and we're looking for ones that emphasize strong partnerships with corrections. In fact, a hallmark of this program is that applicants, if units of the local and state and tribal government are eligible to apply, as well as nonprofit organizations. For nonprofit organizations, we are looking for strong partnerships with a correctional entity to ensure that they get access and have a strong partnership and can develop relationships with individuals prior to release. The program seeks to reduce recidivism and, like I said, enhance those educational opportunities as well as employment prospects for people to be able to re-enter the workforce. Partnerships can support the establishment and improvement of academic and vocational education programs, as well as career training programs available within prisons and jails. We anticipate making up to 32 awards under this program, and the average award amount is $900,000. On the next slide is another program under the Second Chance Act called Improving Reentry for Adults with Substance Use Disorders. The goal of this program is to really ramp up and enhance correction systems' ability to address the substance use disorder treatment needs and or those with co-occurring substance use and mental health disorders for people during incarceration and as they're leaving incarceration to ensure a warm handoff to treatment and continued promotion of recovery within the community, and in the process improving both public health and public safety. In FY22, we anticipate making 8 awards and the amounts of up to $900,000, and units of state, local, and tribal government, as well as nonprofit organizations, are eligible applicants for this program. On the next slide, we're covering 2 programs on one slide here. You've heard David talk about programs in BJA's Smart Suite. The hallmark of those programs is that we are asking organizations, agencies, to innovate, to try new things, or to scale up what evidence shown has worked to produce a better outcome for a given target population. We want to learn along with you and make sure that we're making your learning available. We can learn from failures too. Sometimes those are just as important as successes so that others know what not to do. This program, Smart Reentry and Smart Supervision, is going through a change in FY22, and we're looking to help corrections agencies reduce recidivism and improve related outcomes by better preparing people for release and facilitating successful reentry, or improving supervision outcomes by improving agencies' capacity to do 2 things: providing services to support people based on their needs and facilitating successful reintegration through accountability and positive change, And we want to track outcomes of current policies and practices to inform future decisions. For Smart Reentry, we'll make up to 8 awards of $1 million each. Under Smart Supervision, we anticipate making up to 4 awards of up to $850,000 each. An important note here is that there will be an accompanying training and technical assistance competition that's anticipated to support both programs in the amount of $7 million, and a large specified through the solicitation portion will be set aside to develop technology which will be deployed to the Smart Reentry and Smart Supervision competitively selected applicants. Next is another program under the Second Chance Act. This is the Pay for Success initiative. And this is really looking to work with state, local, or tribal governments to enhance or implement performance-based or outcomes-based contracts. The idea of paying for performance or paying for outcomes. Those contracts can be with reentry service providers and or permanent supportive housing providers, looking to provide individualized services and case management with a goal of reducing recidivism and addressing substance use as well as mental health disorders and other treatment needs impacting people who were formerly incarcerated. We anticipate making up to 6 awards, up to $1 million each. And on the next slide is the Swift, Certain, and Fair Supervision Program. This program improves supervision success rates and focuses on implementing the HOPE program principles of swiftness, certainty, and fairness in supervision. It seeks to help communities reduce the number of crimes committed by people on community supervision, which in turn enhances the safety of the communities they serve and decreases readmissions to prisons and jails. State, local, and tribal community supervision agencies are eligible under this program to develop and test new or enhanced applications of swift, certain, and fair principles of intervention in order to reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for people under community supervision. We anticipate making up to 5 awards of up to $800,000 under this program. And on the next slide, this is also a new program under BJA's corrections team, Improving Corrections Data Analysis Virtual Academies. Under this initiative, we are really looking to provide assistance and a boot camp of sorts to both institutional and community corrections data analysts to improve their skills, to help them help their agencies make the best use of their data, of their analysis of that data, and help the field appreciate standards of performance and techniques within the profession itself. So we're looking for 1 provider under this program to provide these services of up to $1 million in FY22. Next is something that's specific for tribal corrections, and we're looking to help tribal corrections improve and increase their capacity by selecting a training and technical assistance provider. We are looking for this training and technical assistance provider will assist grantees under Purpose Area 3 of the CTAS, the Tribal Assistance Solicitation that I spoke about earlier. And so any tribal grantees that we take in FY22 that have a focus on corrections will be supported by the training and technical assistance providers selected through this competition. And also this provider will be providing specific services to help tribal jurisdictions implement or enhance community supervision practices through a tribal probation academy, and also to plan, implement, and enhance reentry programming strategies for tribal communities. We anticipate making up to 2 awards of up to $500,000 under this program. Next is the Community Supervision Resource Center. This is also a new initiative for BJA. We are looking to stand up a Community Supervision Resource Center to serve as a resource hub for community supervision authorities, and that includes pretrial, probation, and parole. It'll provide information, guidance, and support on best practices and evidence to strengthen and make their work more effective. This will also be a vehicle for us to provide micro-grants to small and rural probation agencies to improve supervision outcomes for individuals that they supervise. And it'll allow us to get funding to needed funding to small and rural probation agencies that might not have had the opportunity to take advantage of federal funding in the past. We anticipate making one award, including of up to $2 million to include $1 million set aside for that MicroGrant program. And we will round out the discussion about solicitations and programs available in FY22 with our formula program. So we'll start this last section by talking about the DNA Capacity Enhancement for Backlog Reduction Program. This provides formula funding to states and units of local government that have existing crime labs to increase the capacity of publicly funded forensic DNA and DNA database labs to process more DNA samples, thereby helping to reduce the number of forensic DNA and DNA database samples that are awaiting analysis and or prevent a backlog of forensic and database DNA samples. The formula will allow for awards up to 136 awards of approximately $2 million at the upper end, based on the formula. Next is Project Safe Neighborhoods. This is designed to create safer neighborhoods through sustained reduction in crime associated with gang and with gun violence. PSN's effectiveness is really in the cooperation of the states and the local agencies and the federal agencies engaged in a unified approach that's led by the U.S. Attorney in each district. There are 93 districts. We anticipate making 93 awards of up to $350,000 each. The Residential Substance Abuse Treatment for State Prisoners program is one of the only funding sources for treatment dedicated solely to substance use disorder treatment behind the walls of correctional facilities. This is a formula program. It goes out to states, whoever the governor designates. Oftentimes that is the SAA within the state that I mentioned earlier. But funds can also go to support jails as well as aftercare services for people who have left incarceration. Up to 56 awards will be made to the states, DC, and the territories. And the average award amount is about $514,000. Again, this is a formula program, so it's based on a formula that's provided within the statute. A note here that we also anticipate a training and technical assistance competition to provide support and best practices to those formula grantees. Next is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program. This is OJP's flagship grant program and the leading source of federal justice funding to state, local, and tribal jurisdictions. In JAG, there are these 8 broad purpose areas that support law enforcement programs, prosecution and court programs, crime prevention and education, corrections and community corrections, drug treatment and enforcement, planning, evaluation, and tech improvement, crime victim and witness programs, as well as mental health programs. Estimated total funding for local JAG awards is up to $113 million this year, and we anticipate making approximately 1,000 awards to local jurisdictions. Estimated total funding available for state JAG allocations is up to $175 million, and again, 56 awards considering the 50 states, DC, and territories. With the Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Best Partnership Program, the purpose here is to reimburse states, counties, tribes, cities, and local jurisdictions for up to 50% of the cost of body armor vests purchased for law enforcement officers. Since 1999, this program has awarded more than 13,000 jurisdictions a total of $522 million in federal funds for the purchase of over 1 million vests to help keep law enforcement officers, corrections officers safe on the job. Estimated number of payments this year is 4,500, and the estimated funding amount is $25 million. In terms of other types of assistance, there are also payment-based programs, some of which you heard about. These are awarded directly by OJP to eligible recipients that are made aware that they're available. Applicants would apply directly to BJA. They're on a reimbursement basis, and the payment formula can be statutorily defined. So what's next? when do we get to see all these solicitations? Only one is actually released right now, and that's that Coordinated Tribal Assistance Solicitation, actually released in December 2021. The rest will be released on a rolling basis. So we really ask that you are visiting BJA's website. In the upper right-hand portion of BJA's website, there is a link to subscribe so that you can be kept up to date. And also grants.gov is an incredibly valuable resource. You can opt in to get notified when solicitations become available this funding cycle and in future funding cycles. For the most part, application submission deadlines, solicitations are usually open for 60 days, sometimes longer. And for funding resources for FY22, you can check out the Department of Justice Program Plan site. This should be released soon. That covers all of the funding opportunities across the department. So I mentioned that the Office of Justice Programs has 6 components. Most of us make grant funding available, but there's also the Office on Violence Against Women and the COPS Office. The DOJ Program Plan covers funding opportunities across all of the grant-making components, and all grant-making components make their grant and solicitation and funding opportunities through grants.gov, which is, I can't overemphasize enough, is really important to be registered for so that you're prepared when funding opportunities present themselves. And here is BJA's website that I mentioned, OJP grant funding resources, grants.gov, which we've talked about, Just Grants, which we've also talked about, which is the new grant management system for all of the Department of Justice grant-making components, Office of Justice Programs award data. So post-award, once the competitions have been concluded and awards have been made after the fact, including for all years past, you can see award data and understand which jurisdictions or applicants did receive competitive funding, as well as who received formula funding and what amounts and for what under each solicitation that not just BJA, but the Office of Justice Programs, all components put out. Another helpful resource is NIJ's crimesolutions.gov. There is a link here, and this is an important website if you're researching what works, what is the evidence and effectiveness rating for different criminal justice programs, initiatives, and interventions. And I think I will turn it back over to Daryl, who's going to discuss the future of the grant applicant education series and just a couple of more resources. And I thank you so much again for all of your attention and interest in BJA funding opportunities, and look forward to answering questions.
Thank you, Ruby. So yes, we'll just go over a couple more slides on some additional resources that you all can access to assist with your applications and such. But just the questions have come in pretty heavily on, will this recording and PowerPoint be available post-event? And the answer is yes. This will be posted to the BJA website. The link has been posted into the chat. So we'll post the PowerPoint, the transcript, and the recording from today on that website. So you'll be able to go back and access as needed. So as Ruby mentioned, the next applicant education series webinar, as well as previous ones, will be posted to this website here that's been entered in the chat on the BJA.gov website. The next one will be on the 26th of January at 1 p.m. as well. So be on the lookout for that, and you can go ahead and register for that from the website. If you're interested in becoming a peer reviewer, this is an important part of the grant making process. You can please submit an up-to-date resume or curriculum vitae, including your valid email address, to the email address here, which is bjareviewer@ojp.usdoj.gov. And just a note, if you could put the peer reviewer candidate resume in the subject line, those will be reviewed and edited and vetted, and you'll be contacted for future participation perhaps. So please go ahead and email those to that email. As mentioned, the reminder will be this upcoming funding process webinar, second in the series, and it's going to be on the first steps to applying. So now that you know the different grant opportunities that will be made available, how do you get things moving? So it'll be on the first steps to applying, how to prepare, and then other considerations. It's going to be held January 26, 1 p.m. Eastern time. And just like today, this will be posted to the BJA website post-event. So if you are busy and able to make this, you'll be able to access those from the BJA website. Lastly, stay connected. So, there's a lot of information coming out. What's the one place, several places you can go ahead and keep up to date. We have a text OJP option. If you want to text OJP and then your email address to 468-311, you'll subscribe. Message and data rates may apply, but it's a good way to keep up to date via your phone. Social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, and RSS feeds are available here if you're interested. And then once again, for additional information, the funding opportunities section of the BJA's website is a great repository for what's coming out. It will be updated continuously through this next grant cycle. And then the last thing, the OJP Response Center has an email. It's grants@ncgrs.gov. They also have a web chat function, a toll-free phone, and a TIY option for the hearing impaired. And they maintain a call center. So if you do have specific questions about grant opportunities that are going to be coming out, once they come out, if you have questions within those, you can contact them directly at these different options here through 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. So with that, we're at the end of our presentation portion. So we do have about 25 minutes till the end of the webinar today. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions. I see everybody's been putting those in the Q&A box throughout the webinar. We want to thank you for that. Anybody that hasn't or does have a question, you can do so by clicking on the three dots, bottom right-hand side of your screen, and just select Q&A and send those to all the panelists. Perhaps we may not be able to get through all of them today, but once again, if you want to go ahead and contact the Response Center with additional questions, you can do so. So Ruby and David, we'll go ahead without further ado and just kind of hop into some of these questions. For COSAP, the COSSAP program, do you typically approve additional grant awards to refund the sustainment of successful initiatives originally funded with COSAP funds? Basically, can you be awarded 2 COSAP grants at the same time?
I would say, happy to answer this. I'm going to turn my video back on. As with any program, the focus, and for much of BJA funding, the intention is to seed programs or to help scale up what works, to innovate, and to build capacity. And so we are looking, I would say, generally, to help ensure that we're getting to geographic distribution and that we're looking to meet as much of the need and demand for any of these grant programs that is out there. So the first priority is to do that. But based on the availability of funds, the number of applications that come in that are competitive, it is possible to receive a second award under many of these programs, if not just to sustain, but to actually enhance something that you might have attempted or innovated or piloted or seeded with an initial or original BJA award. It's certainly not guaranteed, but for most of these programs, it's not prohibited to come back again as a current applicant or someone, a current applicant that has coming to the close of an existing project period.
Thank you for that.
While we're waiting for the next question to be asked, I just wanted to reiterate something that Daryl spoke about, and that's on peer reviewers. There's a lot of you on the phone. I'm sure people will also be listening to playback in the coming weeks who weren't able to join today's webinar. We are really, really interested in building our peer reviewer selectee pool and that database. Very interested in building that pool. We're also really interested in engaging people with lived experience. If you don't, usually when you become a peer reviewer, you'll fill out some information and you'll click all of the different subject matters that you might have experience or expertise in. There's also an other box. So if you've got other experience or expertise, including lived experience within the system, within a particular area of the system, please indicate that using that other box, and please do consider becoming a BJA peer reviewer.
Okay, so the next question is regarding the Adult Drug Court and the Veterans Treatment Court programs. If the full VTC appropriation is not awarded in a fiscal year, is that money distributed to the Adult Drug Court program or is it reserved for subsequent years under the Veteran Treatment Court Program?
That is a great question. So we need to go back to what Congress authorizes us to do with any particular program. So we look and see what the authorizing statute or any particular guidance or direction that Congress is providing through the appropriation. So to the extent it's allowable to do that and we have funds remaining under one program, if we have additional unfunded competitive applications under another and Congress permits and the appropriation law permits, we might do that. That is, if it's allowable, we might do that.
And do you publish a breakdown of the distributed funds between those? Is that public information?
Between drug court and veterans treatment court?
Correct.
Yes, the solicitations will delineate how much funding is available under each.
The next question is about the JMHCP program and the duration, or how long is the duration of that program? Similarly for Byrne.
I actually don't have an answer to that one off the top of my head. One thing I can note about justice and mental health is that authorizing statute for that program, just to note for any interested applicants, really says that there needs to be joint application between a public safety agency and the mental health authority or an agency designated as the mental health authority by a unit of government. So that's important to note. The solicitation will state specifically whether that's a 2, 3, or 4-year program. For the most part, BJA's project periods are in the 3-year range, but there might be some that run a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, depending how long, in our experience or what we're hearing from the field, it takes to fully implement a program.
Just a general eligibility question for the PDMP program, if you want to specify what that is state or any agency available for that particular program?
David, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, that you have to have, it has to be a state program, and you have to have that as a legislative who's in charge of that particular program.
Regarding the Harold Rogers prescription drug monitoring program, can the entity apply for FY 2022 if the funding will be utilized for different projects enhancements?
They can apply, as Ruby says, they can apply from year to year. The one thing that's always taken into consideration is previous funding, other projects, but also is they can't apply for funds, additional funds or sustaining funds if what they had said in the previous award was not completed as part of the project. So there's some evaluation that goes along with that, but I mean, it doesn't preclude them from applying for additional funding. If there are any restrictions, usually in BJA, the solicitation, it will specifically say that this is not a supplement funding or grantees from previous years. That's usually stipulated in the solicitation.
All right, thanks, David. Regarding the STOP program, once again, with eligibility, the potential for partnerships with local hospitals, nonprofits, and higher education institutions. Is that part of the prerequisite there for application? Also, the duration of the award, if that was known, to expand on that.
Not yet, not by the folks on this call. I also want to mention that we are having a 3-pronged approach to educating the field, public safety field, key stakeholders, and any eligible or interested applicants about all of these funding opportunities this year. So this is the first wave or the first prong, where we are trying to cover the entire waterfront of BJA's anticipated fiscal year 2022 solicitations that will be announced in the weeks and the months to come. The second prong approach is stakeholder specific. So for each of the sections of this solicitation, of this PowerPoint presentation, we'll have a separate webinar that focuses on just those programs that address corrections, and we will market that to the corrections community. Same thing for all of the other different topic areas. And the third prong approach is per solicitation, especially if it's new or different, you will see solicitation-specific webinars and presentations that are announced and for which you can register, or if you can't make similar to this one, they'll all be made available for playback after the fact. So I just want folks to know David and I are covering all of BJA solicitations, so we might not be prepared to answer very specific questions about funding levels and project periods, but there will be many other opportunities for you to get that information.
Yeah, let me just add on the stock program about the partnerships. I know that's one of the things that BJ does urge is the partnerships and who you're working with, especially when it comes to providing training. And Ruby had mentioned also that you could be doing a project that one element of it would be BJA funding, but to look at the COPS to augment. So the more groups that you have involved with that, the better the application is viewed.
So it would appear that the COSAP would be the area, the COSAP program would be the area that would best address a family drug court program to help lower DNA cases, whereas an alternative to the state filing a DNA case on a child or family. Does that sound correct in that assumption?
I can say that BJA receives, that might be an option under COSAP, but I would also ask folks to look at the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention and what they're announcing in terms of juvenile drug court and family drug treatment court funding opportunities for FY22. BJA receives the drug court program and the Veterans Treatment Court Program appropriation from Congress, and we provide a proportionate amount to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, specific in the substance use and treatment arena, to fund family drug courts and juvenile drug courts as well. Same goes for the Second Chance Act, in that BJA receives the full appropriation from Congress, but we also send a proportionate amount of that appropriation to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention to stand up and make funding opportunities available to support reentry of youth from confinement back home and to communities.
Regarding objective review criteria, those published in each individual program solicitation, or is those generally published somewhere else?
No, absolutely. The review criteria will be included in each and every solicitation. There are usually weights or points that are associated with each component of an application. Next week's webinar will go into this in detail, how to get ready, how to put together what a successful application looks like, what are the components, how, if it's a competitive application and not a formula-based, what's the process that BJA uses, how we receive scores from peer reviewers, and how we kind of take that information and look at the most competitive applications. But yes, every solicitation will list the selection criteria and the weights associated with each of those selection criteria. For the most part, they are your description of the issue or your problem statement, how you're describing the program or the project, and how tight that is, and how well you're showing what you're proposing to implement will address the issue or the problem that you identified in the statement, the capabilities and competencies of the organizations, and particular people that are going to be working on it, what your budget looks like, and then what your plan is for evaluation, collecting performance measures, and sustainability. Those are kind of the basics for every application. There'll be nuances to each solicitation. They might have particular priority considerations. They might ask for some additional attachments to support the application and what you're proposing to do, but all of that is laid out really clearly in each solicitation.
Regarding the body-worn camera funding eligibility, are prosecutors' offices eligible for the review, redaction, storage, etc.?
I'm not sure, David, if you know the answer to that question. I would, when the solicitation comes out, look at the definition of law enforcement. I know, for instance, obviously for sheriff's deputies, for police officers, for corrections officers, and folks that are working within confinement facilities, I could definitely see how prosecutors are part of the law enforcement community within the criminal justice system. I am not sure about their eligibility under body-worn cameras. I'm not sure if David knows, but if not, we can make sure that we answer it in FAQs and in that solicitation-specific webinar.
Yeah, if it's a prosecutor where it's prosecutor investigators, or are they talking about the attorneys themselves? I have not seen a application come in for that yet. But the one thing is that you mentioned that was mentioned about storage. Storage is not a permissible expense as part of the body-worn camera program at this time.
Can you speak a little more to what the training and technical assistance components are to some of the grants that were mentioned? You know, what specifically does that mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Most site-based programs for which that BJA has, where we are accepting applications from and making competitive awards to jurisdictions, nonprofit organizations, there is a training and technical assistance provider that's made available by BJA through a separate award to help those site-based grantees meet the goals and objectives of their competitively funded applications. So the training and technical assistance providers get access to the project narrative and the purpose of the program as it was funded. They make outreach. We do a warm handoff to that training and technical assistance provider. A lot of times for a lot of programs, that looks like a coach who sets up a regular call with the grantee to understand, help them track progress, help them keep accountable, help them understand, get through any barriers or kind of rough spots. They can also help to create peer communities. A lot of times grantees learn way more from each other. They are tackling the same problem, maybe trying the same thing or different things. So that's what the training and technical assistance provider can do, providing one-on-one support to each of the grantees and looking at the cohort or all of the active grantees under a program and creating that peer-to-peer network.
Are there any funding opportunities for postdoctoral fellows through BJA?
Another great question. In fiscal year 2021, BJA did relaunch its Visiting Fellows program. We made Visiting Fellowships a possibility under 9 different categories. We ended up making 5 Visiting Fellowship awards available, and it's still to be determined whether we will offer the Visiting Fellowship program again in fiscal year 2022. That has not yet been decided, and that's why it wasn't addressed during the presentation today. And that's why we really ask folks to keep up to date with BJA and also on grants.gov to see what opportunities might still be announced.
In regards to the SACI program, does that include long-term storage of forensic evidence after testing?
I do not know the answer to that question. Let me check in with David and see if he does.
Can you repeat that, Joe?
Yeah, regarding the SACI program, it can be used for inventorying sexual assault kits, but can it also include long-term storage of forensic evidence post-testing?
I do think that's part of the element to that, but we'll follow up on that and get that out to who made the inquiry.
Regarding the Emmett Till cold case program, just confirming that contains cold cases that occurred prior to 1980. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That is correct.
A lot of questions coming in on the actual release of these solicitations. As mentioned earlier, they'll be on a rolling basis. So definitely want to go to the BJA website and you could subscribe to the email list there to be alerted on when these will be released. But the BJA website will be updated as appropriate. So that'd be a good resource for you.
Yeah, but we can't stress enough to also make sure that you're set up in grants.gov. Because ultimately that is where all applications will start. And there's a number of things that you need to make sure. Again, they'll go over all of this in the webinar next week that's really talking about how to prepare to be most successful. What can you do now to make sure you're prepared to get together a competitive application and be able to submit it on time.
Regarding the PREA program, what level is a state-controlled juvenile facility considered? Would it be under the category of a state government?
Whichever, if it's under the operational control of the state, then yes, they'd come in through the state category.
This one is for second chance for nonprofits. Can funding be used for housing? For example, purchasing a house for those who are coming out of prison that have a need and otherwise would be homeless.
It is a huge priority of this administration to end the release of anyone from incarceration to homelessness. That being said, at the level of appropriation and for the grant program that I think the person who's asking the question is getting at, it would not, the funding levels do not lend themselves to be able to purchase homes. There can be shorter term rental assistance, but the hope there is that you're encouraging folks to engage in more systemic solutions. So working in partnership with the entities that are releasing people, whether that's the jail, the state prison, the Department of Correction system at the state level, kind of depends on where the nonprofit is operating and to what jurisdiction people are returning and who they're partnering with, but also to understand the full kind of continuum and working with the HUD identified continuum of care that has kind of a bird's eye view of all of the housing and funding options that might be available, including housing vouchers within a particular jurisdiction. That's a long answer to your question, but basically the short answer is the funding level does not support the purchase of housing, and if you were paying rent for someone on a long-term basis, it won't go that far for very many participants. What we're looking is systemic solutions and partnerships to be able to get more people housing who need it using many HUD and other assets that are already in that and going to that local jurisdiction.
For the Bulletproof Vest partnership, are jurisdictions over 250,000 people ever funded, typically funded?
David, are you aware?
Yep. Yes, they have departments of all sizes that have been funded from the largest cities to the smallest rural areas. So what you would do when the solicitation comes out, you would apply based on what they make available. So we've had departments that statewide agencies, large major cities. So all those could be funded. It's just that you make sure that you're applying to the appropriate categories.
Yep, and know that for that program, it's a 50-50 split, it's a shared cost program for the bus.
And then for the Bodyworn camera program again, is it a requirement to deploy additional units, or can it be to support the cost for existing units?
Good. Ruby, you want to start?
No, I said I would defer to you again.
Okay. The Bodyworn camera program, what it does, it allows you to provide funds. There's X number of dollars for each new camera purchased. It does have some funding that could be used to come in to continue the support of the program, especially as it comes down to things like replacing holders or updating cameras, all those things. And Ruby stressed this, and it's been stressed several times. You need to read the solicitation. We change sometimes based on what the direction is that comes from Congress to us on what should be funded under this particular pot of money. So it's very important to do that. I would also urge people as they look at, some of these presentations that were made today. The solicitation may not be on the field yet, but all these usually have a page on the BJA site. Sometimes they do have the criteria who can apply. So this is a very good starting point when looking at funding from BJA.
Yeah, David, you raise a really good point. One thing that we say for folks to do is you're waiting for solicitations to come out. If you can look and see if that solicitation was competed in the previous fiscal year and check out, we archive all solicitations going back 10, 15 years. So you can go back and see what that solicitation looked like in the previous year. There's no guarantee it'll look exactly the same, but that gives you some sense of the flow, what's being asked for, what are the different application components, the weighting, and then you kind of know what to look for when the new one gets released. But you can get some sense of what we've been after with those solicitations in the past per program, especially ones that have been around for a while.
Also on the BJA website, you can go and look at who received funding in the previous years. So it would give you some ideas. So if you had somebody in an adjacent area or somebody that you knew, they might be able to help you through the application process.
And for a lot of programs, we will choose competitive applications that were funded in previous years, de-identify them, but first ask the grantee jurisdiction or agency if they're okay with us posting that in a de-identified way. And if we get their permission, we can post some good application examples, and those would also be on BJA's website.
Okay, thank you, Ruby and David. So with that, we are at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Is there anything in closing you wanted to mention, Ruby, before we close for today?
Just to thank everyone so much for their interest throughout this presentation, and also just to flag again, there's another one next week that's more specific to actually putting a competitive application together, what you can do now to prep. And remember that this is one of 3 prongs of ways that we're getting information out. There will be a webinar series that's specific to stakeholder groups, so whether that's law enforcement, courts, corrections, behavioral health, and community-based, those will be available. And then many solicitations will have their own applicant webinars to go into the nitty-gritty and specifics and answer all of these detailed questions that folks importantly are raising about particular programs and solicitations and what's required this year. So be on the lookout for those as well. And thanks so much.
Okay, so on behalf of the Bureau of Justice Assistants and our panelists, we want to thank you for joining today's webinar. This will end today's presentation.